Hello everybody. So today I just wanted to go ahead and take a look at the patch notes. So I took a brief look at them, and there's some main things I want to point out, especially for the Druid. Druid is looking pretty interesting. Looks like they actually just ended up gutting Shred Druid, which kind of blows. They totally removed the double dipping, but we'll go over that in a second. The other thing too is it looks like basic skill builds are still going to be a thing, and they might even be stronger than what they were. The only thing is we're losing Ravenous, which is a pretty big attack speed bonus from the Season 2 powers, so I don't know how that's going to affect it, but let's go ahead and hop on into this. So first off, we have new items, all classes. Pain, Gorgers, Gauntlets, Unique Gloves. Damaging enemies with a cast non-basic skill marks them for 3 seconds. When a basic skill first hits a marked enemy, the basic skill's damage is echoed to all marked enemies, dealing 100 to 200% increased damage. So now this is really, really good. I know, at least specifically for the Druid and for any build I play, right? Because I play a lot of like the companion stuff. So if I hit something with Poison Creeper, that means it's going to mark them, and then I'm going to basic attack something, and it's just going to echo to like everything, right? For 100 to 200% increased damage. So that's pretty darn good. And really, really smooth for builds like I like to play that have like constant resets and stuff like that. Next up, we have Aspect of Adaptability. Wing cast below 50% max resource. Basic skills deal 3 of your primary resource once per cast. This is really good. It combos really well with the Melted Heart of Selig changes. So, and it also, again, is good for basic skills. So when cast at above 50% max resource, basic skills deal 40 to 80% increased damage. So you have very, very easy ways. I know at least for, I don't know if every build is going to be able to do it, but I know like Stormclaw is most likely going to be able to do this, mainly because like they can run things like Cataclysm or Poison Creeper and Impact Leader. Like there's a lot of ways that you can tech this to run both of these in like the Stormclaw build, and this is also just strictly a buff for like Companion Druid as well, since Companion Druid likes to run the Great Staff of the Crone and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. And then there's even more changes down here that are beneficial, that are pretty good. So then Juggernaut's Aspect, gain 0.75 to 1.275 armor, but your evade has 100% increased cooldown. This could be good. It all just depends, right? Like that's really just interesting. It just depends, and that is for all classes. So item updates. Ring of Starless Skies. This one's pretty interesting. So they changed it from just reducing your core skill cost, and they made it to where now spinning resources reduces the cost still, but it also increases your damage by 10% for 3 seconds, up to 40%. So you might actually see this being used more across a few builds, because I feel like that's pretty good. For things like the spam builds, because it reduces the resource cost on top of increases the damage. So in my mind, that's actually like a really good item now. The damage bonus, Aspect of the Expectant. The damage bonus now has a 5-second duration to be used. Okay, whatever. Melted Heart of Selig. So first off, they doubled the stats to 2x the normal value. Core skill damage changed to movement speed. Damage while healthy increased to 3x the normal value, and then the unique power was changed. So now instead of gaining 30 resource and then drain 3 resource for every 1% life you lost, now it's gained 60 resource, and 75% of the incoming damage drains 2 resource for every 1% life you lost. So when you combine that up here with like this aspect of adaptability and stuff like that, and then like for example Great Staff of the Crone and like a Stormclaw build, like you're going to be pretty tanky if you're trying to push like harder content, if you want to run that Melted Heart of Selig whenever you get it. Overpower got nerfed, so overpower attacks now gain 1% damage down from 2% per 1% of your base life and Fortify, and then overpower attacks now gain 1% down from 2%. So they essentially cut it in half on the bonuses you get based on your life and your Fortify. So yeah, overpower not going to be quite as strong, but still pretty strong. So I don't think it's like gutting overpower, because it's like, dude, overpower was just insanely OP. Like it's just taken overpower to actually from being a godly build to probably being like a good build, and even then I don't even know if that's enough. We'll see how those changes play out. Barbarian, Ring of the Ravenous. Ren's duration is increased by 2 to 4 seconds. Damaging enemies with brawling skills applies 2 stacks of Ren's bleed. This damage, so that's interesting. So it just helps apply more stacks of bleed. Not bad, actually. I feel like that could be pretty good for the Rin build. We'll see. We'll see how it pays out. Aspect of Sunderground. Every 25 seconds, Upheaval is guaranteed to overpower and deals 10 to 20% increased damage. This timer is reduced by 4 seconds when Upheaval overpowers a boss or an elite enemy. It looks like, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I guess they're just trying to make it to where maybe Upheaval is played a little bit more. But the 25-second cooldown, that kind of blows, but at the same time it's reduced by 4 seconds when it overpowers a boss or an elite enemy, so maybe that could be good, but I don't know. Core skills, charge, base damage increased by 900%. That's interesting. Maybe some funny charge builds will happen. Enhanced charge, terrain impact. Oh man. Increased by 150% from 0.6 to 1.5. Power charge no longer requires a terrain impact to reduce the cooldown of charge, and now charging the boss will reduce the cooldown by 6 seconds. Okay, so yeah, there's got to be a charge build that comes out this season that's pretty good on this. There has to be. Elite base damage bonus increased by 30%. Passives, overpower damage decreased by from 15% to 8% per rank. Oof. 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 Jesus, okay. Walking Arsenal. Duration of each weapon bonus increased from 8 to 10. Additional damage bonus from 15 to 20. And then having all bonuses now increases your attack speed by 20%. Okay, buff to Walking Arsenal. That's cool. Berserking damage bonus increased from 60 to 100%. Okay. Alright. Okay, that's pretty good. Bonus bleed amount increased from 115 to 140. Overpower explosion damage increased from 70 to 85. So, lead overpower builds may be coming? Interesting. Now, there's a really interesting change here. So, expertise leveling has been cut by 50%. Ooh, that's crazy. So, you're going to level weapons faster. But here's the real interesting one I saw. Martial. Now reduces the cooldown of every non-shout skill by 4 seconds instead of every other shout skill by 1.2 seconds. That is an interesting change because that's something that barbarians relied on this glyph to have 100% shout uptime. But now, I don't know if that's going to be a thing anymore. It might still be, but man, that's really good still though when you think about it. You know, using a shout reduces the duration of your non-shout skills, so like, and it doesn't even say basic, so like you could, I mean theoretically what you could do is just run 3 shouts still, keep them as low CD as possible, and then just use this to constantly be taking your ultimate ability off CD. But I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, maybe that's not how people are going to use it, but I feel like that is another way people are very likely to use it instead of the intended way that it was supposed to be used. You can now generate 6 to 10 Fury per second while any shout skill is active instead of 2 to 4 Fury per second for each shout skill active. Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good because I can see what they're doing. They're definitely trying to make it to where you're not running shouts, like 3 shouts on your bar all the time. And I think that actually will help. Aspect of Limitless Rage. Damage bonuses, is now been over 5-second duration to be used. Interesting. So it looks like they're putting a cap on a lot of these things, so you can't just like stack them with like a bunch of other effects, and you have to use them in a certain time frame, otherwise you lose them. So I don't know how it's going to affect the functionality of bar builds, but that might actually be quite a large nerf, because if you're not able to like do the whole like, okay, sit before Duriel, get 1 passive, then get another passive, then get another passive, and then okay, boom, 1 shot. You know what I mean? So who knows? Veteran Brawlers, offensive aspect, reduced damage bonus per stack, 15 to 20, 6 to 8, up to a maximum bonus of 225 to 30, of 230 to 40. Okay, reduced bonus damage. Alright, looks like they're just nerfing this? Huh. That could be, because if I remember right, Veteran Brawlers aspect has something to do with charge and leap, so maybe they might have to nerf this to compensate for the 900% increase. Offensive aspect of Ancestral Charge, reduced damage bonus. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're just reducing the other stuff, so it doesn't make it too crazy. Reduced bonus weapon damage mastery from 82 to 40 to 60. Okay, damage bonus now has a 5-second duration to be used. Ring for damage bonus. Yeah, so unless you can stack all of these bonuses in 5 seconds, you will not be able to get all of them at once. Okay. Alright, Druid, new items, so interesting stuff here. So first off, we have Unsung Aesthetics Wraps. Lightning Storm gains 1 additional strike each time it grows. Lightning Storm critical strike causes lightning to strike twice, dealing 10 to 20% increased damage. That is really good, actually, because it's not strictly double damage, but it's making it strike twice and then dealing more damage, and then it's also growing faster. So this is really good for the Lightning Storm build, like really good. So yeah, like there's really nothing else to say. It's going to be good. Okay, next up we have, this is the rabies aspect. Now I'm interested with this because it says when rabies infects an enemy, it reduces its cooldown by 3 to 6 seconds. This cooldown reduction is tripled when infecting elites. So this is going to be an ability that you're going to have to kind of spam to get a ton of value out of, but depending on how much damage it does, maybe. I still don't know if it'll do enough damage, but when we think about this in terms of like with some of the builds I play, like for example Companion Druid, if I use Aspect of the Alpha, that makes all my wolves infect things with rabies, right? So you have 3 different wolves infecting things with rabies. So that means you're actually going to be effectively reducing the cooldown a ton with that aspect. So on top of, you know, just using it on a pack of things, should just pretty much make it come off cooldown, because it's really not that long of a cooldown. Like especially if you have any cooldown reduction at all, like you should be able to just spam rabies now. Because it says this cooldown reduction is tripled when infecting elites. So if you have like 3 elites, right? That's 1.8 seconds per elite, so you're going to be just perma resetting this on top of like running things like Aspect of the Alpha with it. Like you should be able to just spam rabies now, which is pretty cool. We'll see how good it ends up being. There is an issue that I'm going to go over with it that might have nerfed it and make it not that good, but we'll see. So we have enhanced rabies max damage bonus increased from 30 to 60%. That is pretty good. So they did double the damage bonus it's getting here. I just still don't know if it's going to be enough to make rabies do damage, but maybe if we're able to spam it on things, it's going to make it to where eventually it'll stack up to do enough damage. But I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, I'm trying to think functionally like where this would be good, because like if I walk up right and I use like Poison Creeper, right, that right there will just one-shot like elite packs, you know. So it's like I don't know. I don't even know like when we'll have the time for that ramping damage to come up, because if I'm not mistaken, it says the max damage bonus goes up, but this is like as rabies happens, right? So I don't know. We'll see. Lacerate. Cooldown reduced from 45 to 35 seconds. Changed functionality. Lacerate hits for 3% max life. Increased to 6 on critical strikes. Cool. I mean, it's 35 seconds, which is pretty awesome, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I just don't like, the issue is just when it comes to ults, people are just choosing the one that makes them do the most damage. It's just, that's just the reality of the matter, and if Lacerate does not do enough more damage than the other ults, it's not going to be taken. But this is interesting because Lacerate does offer a defensive aspect to it, or well, not aspect, but it offers like a defensive thing to it. So if you end up using your Lacerate, right, you can use it to like dodge harmful effects and abilities. Like I saw some people teching in Lacerate to do Uber Lilith to dodge like some of her one-shot mechanics. So, okay, Prime Lacerate, change functionality. Lacerate hits. Yep, okay, I already read that. Cataclysm, Twister damage increased from 23 to 46. Lightning damage increased from 77 to 95, and then they double the duration of the vulnerable and Supreme Cataclysm. This is a pretty good buff to Cataclysm because it just strictly buffs the damage. But until they actually add in legendaries that do something for Lacerate, that do something for Cataclysm, I don't think you're going to see Cataclysm and Lacerate played a whole lot, because that's like kind of the main issue is like, you know, Petrify, which is one that's ran quite often. The reason why that's ran is because it just gives you strictly a big damage buff. It gives you a multiplicative crit multiplier, right? So like that doesn't even need something to be good, right? And then you have Grizzly Rage, which people run because again, it's just a big damage multiplier. So, and you have Rampaging Werebeast that combos with it, right? That makes it just really over the top. Cataclysm, Lacerate don't have that, so it's probably still not going to be used. But who knows? It'll at least make Lacerate funner to use while you're leveling, and Cataclysm funner to use while you're leveling. And I think Cataclysm could potentially be used in like Lightning Storm, so I think that one might still be used, but I really don't see Lacerate being used still. Passives. Additional healing received from 5 to 6% per rank. Thick Hide gained from 6.4 to 10% per rank. Okay. Interesting. So they're buffing Fortify decent decent amount. Unrestrained, control impairing effects reduced, increased from 3 to 5%. Increased benefit while over 50% fortify, reduced from tripled to doubled. So trying to make it a little bit easier. Fortify gained on shapeshifting increased from 1.4 to 2% per rank. So that's actually a pretty nice change. Bestial Rampage, required shapeshift duration reduced from 2.5 to 2. And attack speed. So this is the right, this is definitely the right way, but I think what they need to do is, I think they need to reduce this even further. If they reduce this down to 1 second, it would be way better. Like, I think it's just, I think right now, I think even 2 seconds is still really awkward and clunky, but I don't know, we'll see. So, Spirit Boons, Thorns increased from 1.5 to 0.6, so 1194 to 4776. So that's really interesting. For Thorns builds, like maybe some type of Thorns build might come out, because when you combine that with like Razor Plate and stuff like that, who knows? Avian Wrath, critical strike damage bonus is now multiplicative instead of additive. So a while back, Avian Wrath did say it was multiplicative, but then it got hotfixed to say it was additive, and now they're actually changing it to multiplicative. So that's pretty interesting. This is a really big buff. It's now because it's like a 30% increase, so it's a 30% multiplicative increase instead of additive. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Paragon, bonus lucky hit chance increase from 15 to 20%. Poise, barrier increase from 5% of max health to 15%. Duration from 4 to 6. That's a pretty big buff. If you're trying to use conceited aspect, if you're trying to use any aspect that gives you damage while you have a barrier, or an effect while you have a barrier, this is very relevant. 5% of maximum health to 15%, that is huge. That is definitely huge, and way better, because I tried using Poise and it just didn't give me enough of a barrier to matter. So like, think about if you combine Poise with Temerity and then like other barrier generating things like Earthen Bulwark, you could have just shields out the ass now, because Poise like barrier procs a lot. It just wasn't high enough to do anything. And then the really cool thing here, the passive damage bonus is increased from 80 to 100% on wilds. So you are now going to have an additional 40% multiplicative damage multiplier on your companions on their passive. So that's pretty cool. It's just strictly a 40% damage increase to companion passive damage. Pretty sweet. So will this be enough to make them some type of crazy godly thing? I do not know. I mean, we'll find out, because you know they've been buffing passive damage on companions pretty hard. They probably still need more, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, I mean, what they really should do, and this might be a wild change, is they need to change. So they should increase this by like, actually no, they should just do this instead of increasing this a little bit. Just change like the core base like thing you get from wilds from an additive damage bonus to a multiplicative one, and then boom, you're probably gonna see companions pop off, as they'll just be doing so much damage. But because I think it's like you get like 300% or something from just the regular thing on wilds to companions. So like if you just change that to multiplicative, like holy crap. Or if you change Shepherd's aspect to actually affect companion skills, you would like it, which would make sense. For it to increase your core skill damage and your companion skill damage, it would just strictly be a buff and make even running core skills inside of a companion build worthwhile. They still have not done it. Maybe they will do it eventually. Maybe if I leave a comment saying day 2 of asking you to make Shepherd's aspect apply to also companion skills. Alright, so now item updates. Here we go. I'm sorry, Poison Shred Druid players. Just somebody pour out a beer. While dashing, Shred seeks out nearby poisoned enemies, instantly dealing 70 to 100% of the poisoning damage to them. New, while dashing, Shred seeks out nearby poisoned enemies and deals 20 to 40% increased damage to them. Let me explain why this is a terrible nerf, or this is a pretty big hit. So before, you were taking your Shred damage, you were then adding your poison damage to that Shred damage. So it was like multiplying the living crap out of it, right? Or essentially like it was just, you were getting 2 different kinds of damage on your Shred. Now all that is happening is when something is poisoned, your Shred damage is going up by 20 to 40%. You are no longer increasing your poisoning damage to them, right? So whenever you'd put this on like a 2-handed weapon, you would get 200% multiplicative of the poisoning damage, right? Increased. On top of it would also increase like your shreds damage, right? So you were like double dipping. Okay, that double dip is now gone. That's all you really need to know. You don't even need to understand the back end of it. All you need to know is you're just not double dipping anymore, and you're only getting a damage increase to your shred, which sucks because now the amount of poison you put on something does not matter, and you do not have a way to essentially detonate it, right? And that was a big reason why Blurred Beast was so good, is because you put a bunch of poison on things and then you detonate it. Well, guess what? Not even happening anymore. Sucks, I know. And for some reason they didn't change Changeling's det, so now the only thing you could potentially do is use aspect of Changeling's det and use a Werebear skill to detonate the poison, but that's like that will consume the poison, whereas Blurred Beast did not consume the poison. So this really this really kind of sucks. I'm gonna be real. Yeah, this kind of sucks. Poison Shred Druid is gonna be, I think, a lot weaker than what it was before, but oh well. Aspect of Metamorphic Stone, Boulder Spirit cost reduced from 50 to 40%, or sorry, 50 to 40, so that's pretty good. Especially considering, I think if you put this on like a two-hander, it'll take it from like 50 down to like 20. So maybe this will make like the Amulet Boulder builds better. So that's pretty cool. Aspect of the Unsatiated, Spirit Generation and bonus damage increased from 20 to 30 to 30 to 40. Bonus damage reduced from 20 to 40 to 20 to 30. So this is just a nerf to like a lot of builds. So the bonus damage from 20 to 40, like this is ran on a lot. Any core skill build, this is pretty much ran. So this is just a 10% damage reduction to virtually any of the core skill builds, which actually kind of sucks because it almost, in a way, it kind of negates for Lightning Storm builds. It kind of negates that, it takes away from that damage bonus you're getting from that unique. But a little bit, that's whatever. Okay, Necromancer. Mutilator Plate. Your Blood Lance now deals 10 to 20% increase more damage, and it also fortifies you for 1 to 2% of your max life and has a 5% chance to form a Blood Orb. So pretty good. Blood Lance just gained a damage multiplier and is going to be buffed. Alright. So, or gonna get, it's nice. So, Shattered Spirits aspect, offensive casting Bone Spirit also launches 18 Bone Splinters in all directions, dealing 200 to 400% increased damage and generating 6 essence per enemy hit. Oh my god. Okay. Interesting. Alright. If I'm not mistaken, isn't Bone Splinters like... Isn't that... I'm trying to remember. Is that like part of their basic? I'm wondering if the whole Bone Splinters thing could be increased by those new uniques that do like the basic skill stuff. I'm not sure. But that's interesting. Like it's multiplicative. So yeah. I might have to look into that, but if that's a basic skill thing, that's gonna be a pretty wild Bone Spirit basic skill build to come out of that. But yeah, I don't know, I'm not a Necromancer expert. So Iron Maiden, damage increased from 0.2 to 0.3. Horrid Iron Maiden damage, bonus damage increased from 20 to 30, okay. Corpse Explosion, lucky hit chance reduced from 40 to 25, base damage increased from 50 to 70, Blighted Corpse Explosion damage decreased from 110 to 95. Alright. So it looks like they're nerfing Infinimist, but then buffing like the regular explosion damage a little bit. Okay, whatever. Damage over time increased from 80 to 95. Sever initial damage increased from 66, so the Sever build's getting buffed. Return damage increased from 21 to 25. Bone Spirit damage is increased by 4% per essence spent casting Bone Spirit, up from 3%. Dreadful Bone Spirit now restores 30% of your max essence instead of flat 30. Cool. Acolytes Decompose. Previous you and your minions deal 10% increased damage. Enemies being decomposed. New every 1.5 seconds. Decompose makes enemies vulnerables for 4 seconds. Okay. That's interesting. Decompose slows by 50%. Now it slows. And if you channel Decompose for at least 1.5 seconds, you get 30% movement speed for 5 seconds after ending the channel. Huh. That's interesting. Okay. So that's actually pretty good. in a way, because like you have a way to access move speed, I guess. Huh. I don't know. So Dreadful Blood Mist. Blood Mist fortifies you for 5% of your max life each time it hits an enemy. You gain 10% critical strike chance for 4 seconds after Blood Mist ends. Wait, so are they taking away this effect? Ooh, that's a... yeesh. That kind of sucks. If they're taking away the Fortify effect and replacing it with the 10% critical strike chance for 4 seconds, that kind of sucks. Hopefully if they're adding it to that, though, that would just strictly be a buff. Alright, Bone Prison. Friendly players and minions can now freely pass through Bone Prison walls. Okay. The functionality of Enhanced Bone Prison and Ghastly Bone Prison have been swapped. Alright. Enemies inside of Bone Prison are vulnerable. Ghastly if enemies trapped, gain 25 essence plus an additional 5 per. Okay. Dreadful Bone Prison. Previous fortify for 8% of your max life for each enemy trapped. Now reduce your active cooldowns by 0.5%. Or sorry, by 0.5 seconds for each enemy. Okay. So now it does cooldown reduction. Interesting. That's I wonder how people are going to end up using that, but that actually seems kind of good in a way. 3 seconds. So yeah, I don't know, that doesn't seem too bad. Ossified Essence now displays the current bonus on the tooltip. Book of the Dead. Golems. So when golems finish casting their active, they will first try to target a new close enemy before reverting to their previous target. Blood Golem and Iron Golem basic attacks now hit enemies in an area around the main target. Okay, that's pretty good. Active ability now grants the golem thorns equal to 70% of your armor for the duration of the taunt. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Okay, Bone Mage. Upgrade now fortifies based on your max life instead of base life. And then healing increase from 25 to 40% over the 8-second duration. Now that's just okay. That Bone Golem one's interesting for like thorns, minions builds. Paragon Cult Leader. Your minions deal 10% increased damage for each 20% attack speed bonus they have. So now attacking attack speed is going to give you even more damage for your minions. Okay. Well, actually, wait. I don't even know. I'm not sure which is better because it says for each minion type you have active. So that means like if you have all 3 minion types you have active, you'd have like a 45% damage bonus. So now you have to get 100% attack speed just to roughly get the same value that you have now. I don't know. I don't know about that. Additional bonus change from 25% health to 25% damage. Okay. Item updates. So Aspect of Swelling Cursed. So Bone Spirit's critical strike chance is increased by 15 to 25%. Your maximum essence is increased by 2 for each enemy hit for 15 seconds. So that's pretty interesting because you had the thing that made it when you cast Bone Spirit, it like casts splinters around. So like I'm wondering if those are going to combo together and make it to where you could just get like a ton of extra essence, which will then increase your ossified essence passive, which will inadvertently make all the bone builds really good again maybe. I don't know. We'll see if it actually functions like that. Enemies afflicted by your Iron Maiden have a 15 to 25% chance to be stunned for 1 second when they deal direct damage. Iron Maiden is now also a darkness skill. It deals shadow damage. Enemies afflicted by your Iron Maiden have a 15 to 20% chance to be stunned for 1 second when they deal direct damage. So I'm not sure exactly how this is going to change things, but if it's now a darkness skill and deals shadow damage, it's just going to benefit from all the darkness and shadow damage stuff. So maybe that'll make it more, like, I don't know, more interesting to run inside of the shadow builds, because I don't think anything's really using Iron Maiden right now. Rotting Aspect. Chance to spawn additional corpses increased from 30 to 60 to 50 to 100. Ooh, that's a lot. Hulking Aspect. Chance to reduce a golem's active cooldown increased from 2 to 5 to 4 to 10. And chance to spawn a corpse. Okay, cool. Nice. Alright, Rogue. Beastfall Boots. When you cast an ultimate skill, your next core skill consumes all your energy and deals 0.5 to 1 point increased damage per energy consumed. Using a cooldown restores 5 energy. Oh, and that's on the boot slot. Beastfall Boots. Okay. Interesting. Huh. That seems pretty alright, actually. That seems pretty interesting, I have to say. But we'll see. I guess it also depends on how fast you can reduce your ultimate skill CD. So, but if you have a way to spam an ultimate ability, I feel like that could be pretty good. Or at least get it off now. So, Resistant Assailant's Aspect. Defensive. Breaking Concealment grants 10% resistance and maximum resist to all elements for 4 seconds. Killing an elite enemy reduces Concealment's cooldown by 6 to 10 seconds. Huh. I mean, Concealment isn't a bad ability, and you get to reduce its cooldown whenever you kill an elite. So, like, if you're speed farming, you could almost run Concealment as, like, a defensive thing, I guess. Huh. I don't know, that's pretty interesting. I'm curious to see how people are going to use that. So skills, blade shift, damage increase from 16 to 20, duration, okay. Fundamental invigorating strikes, vulnerable now applies while you are below 85 energy, up from 75, okay. Enhanced caltrops, enemies take 10% increased damage from you, increased by 5% each second. Enemies take 5% increased damage from you for each second they are in the caltrop, so they just gave it like a higher base. Okay, that's pretty cool. Because I like caltrops. I thought it was a fun ability. Cast time reduced by 15%. The first wave of arrows now hits closer to the player. Chill amount now increases by 5% per skill rank, up from 2.5. Blended cold imbuement. Remove the critical strike requirement and increase the lucky hit chance from 20 to 35%. Okay. Mixed poison imbuement. Poison imbued skills have a 30% chance to apply double the amount of poison damage. New lucky hit poison imbued skills have a 30% chance to reduce poison imbuement's cooldown by 2 seconds. Ooh. Ew. I don't know. I think that's kind of a nerf. I think it's kind of a nerf, I'm gonna say. I don't know. Or maybe it's not. But I don't know. That seems. Or maybe it's a buff. I'm not sure how that's gonna turn out. But that seems like having the lucky hit to do it is better because you have the chance to apply multiple doubles, I guess. But I actually, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But, well, actually, yeah, because, I don't know. That's interesting. But forceful arrow, vulnerable duration increased from 3 to 5 seconds. Cool. Enhanced penetrating shot. Penetrating shot deals 10% increased damage per enemy. It pierces. Penetrating shot has a 10% increased critical strike chance. Penetrating shot hits at least 3 enemies, gain 10% crit for 5 seconds. Okay, so it just gives you crit now. Improved penetrating shot deals 10% per enemy. Oh, okay, so there's changing it. Oh, so they almost just kind of swapped it in a way. Alright. Close quarters combat, amount of damage versus crowd controlled. Bonus conversion percent reduced from 40 to 10%. Ooh. That kind of sucks. Attack speed per stack increased from 10 to 15%. So that's just a nerf to close quarters combat. Precision. So critical strikes with marksman skills grant you precision. So it pretty much would just go up until you crit, and then it would consume, deal 40% increased crit damage, and reset. Now it's each marksman skill grants 1 stack of precision, or 2 if it critically struck. When you reach 6 stacks, your next marksman or core or ultimate skill is guaranteed to critical strike and deals 50% increased critical consuming. This damage bonus is increased by initial 15% of your critical strike damage bonus. That is insane. That is a buff if I have ever seen one. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. That is good. Chilling weight. Chilled enemies have their movement speed further reduced. Now have their by up to 10, 20, you gain 5, 10, 15% increased chill effect. Okay. Concussive. After knocking back or knocking down an enemy, you gain 4% critical strike chance for 4 seconds. Okay. I don't... Wait, what? Does this just say the same thing? Okay, I don't really know what the change is there. Paragon, Lorana's Instinct. When inner sight gauge becomes full, you get 100% dodge chance for 2 seconds. Your next 2 core skills deal damage equal to 20% of your core skill damage bonus. Oh, so that's just a buff. That's just a buff. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh, oops. Okay. Orbiting blades can now hit enemies 2 times, reduced from 3. This change is made to properly match the visuals of the 2 rotations around the player. Ooh, twisting blades now dealing 20-30% of twisting blades return damage per hit. Twisting blades orbit for a short time, dealing 10 to 15% per hit based on the distance the blades return. The orbit deals increased 20 to 30% of the return damage. Now it is twisting blades orbit you for a short time after they return to you, dealing 20 to 30% of twisting blades return damage per hit. Huh. Okay. So I think that's it. Maybe I'm insane. Maybe they just got rid of this, but then just upped this damage. So maybe it looks like they might have buffed it a little bit to compensate for the fact that this is technically just strictly a damage nerf in a way, or a DPS nerf. Aspect of Stolen Vigor. Each stack of momentum heals you. Each stack of momentum heals you and grants you 5% damage reduction. Oh, that's good. That's actually so good. Now, okay, so now you have like a really solid reason to run Stolen Vigor. Like a really solid reason. Icy Alchemist. Let's see. Shadow imbued skills have up to a 79% chance to release an explosion of cold damage to the target and surrounding enemies, chilling them for 25%. If they were already chilled, increases damage by 100% multiplicatively. So before, okay. Oh, so it looks like they just added on 100% multiplicative damage multiplier. Yeah. Okay. Lucky hit shadow imbued skills have up to a 75. Oh wait, no, it's a shadow imbued, and this one was chilled or frozen with a shadow imbued skill. Okay, so they don't have to be chilled or frozen anymore for this to proc, and it also does increase damage if they were already chilled or frozen. So that's pretty good, actually. Okay, that's pretty good. Toxic Alchemist, damaging an enemy with a poison enemy with a shadow imbued skill. Okay, so it just does the same thing. Alright. Yeah. Oh, wait, shadow imbued skills have up to a 75% chance to create a toxic explosion. Yeah, so you just don't, like, you don't have to combo it anymore with, like, chilled or frozen things. Like, you get better value if it's already poisoned, but yeah, so I guess, okay. Interesting. Wind Force, lucky hit chance increase from 20 to 30% to 30 to 40%. Sky Hunter. Inherent affix change from damage to distant enemies to critical strike damage. Critical strike damage affix value increased by 100%. Effect updated to reflect changes to the precision key passive. The first direct damage you deal to an enemy is guaranteed critical strike. When you consume precision casting a skill, that skill gains 10 to 30% increased critical strike damage, and you gain 20 to 40 energy. Ooh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. Eagle Horn. Penetrating shot makes enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds. Every fourth cast bounces off walls and scenery and deals 20 to 40% increased damage. Has a 30 to fire off, damaging 5 enemies will cause you. Yeah, so this is just way better actually. Eagle Horn is just, that's actually pretty relevant because it now makes things vulnerable by default, and then every fourth cast you just get 20 to 40% bonus damage. Seems pretty decent. Okay, so Sorcerer. Starfall Coronet, amazing thing that's probably going to make a Meteor build a thing now. Meteor now has 2 charges, an 11 to 6 second cooldown instead of a mana cost, and drops 3 additional meteors around the target. Meteor's enchantment effect and enhanced meteor drop 1 additional meteor. So you now have a way to actually make a meteor storm. On top of, if you reduce the cooldown of this by, like, let's say 50%, and it goes down to 3 seconds, and you have 2 charges, there's a good chance you're just going to be able to, like, be perma, you know, pressing buttons, like meteoring, like, infinitely. So, depending on if you have a solid way to get the mana back, but it says it doesn't have a mana cost, so I take that back. So, yeah, that's just, I don't know, that's just strictly, like, in my opinion, there should be a pretty damn good meteor build that comes out of all this. Anyway, aspect of Shredding Blades. Ice Blade's chance to apply vulnerable is increased by 20%, and vulnerable duration is increased by 4%. You gain 15 to 25% vulnerable damage. Okay. Alright. That's okay, so that's like something for Ice Blades. Interesting. Ball Lightning. Enhanced Ball Lightning changed to have its attack rate increased with attack speed up to 25%. So looks like they're just trying to nerf that a little bit, to have its attack rate increased with attack speed up to 25%. Yeah. So I want to say that this is a pretty big nerf to Ball Lightning, but we'll see. We shall see, but I mean, Ball Lightning was like super giga busted, so they're probably just trying to tone it down to just make it to where it's good and not totally broken. Blizzard, Mage's Blizzard condition to be cast while over 50 mana has been removed. Okay. Alright, Lightning Spear, critical strikes now apply vulnerable for 3 seconds. Searing Heat, critical strike damage bonus increased from 10 to 12%. Elemental Summoner, Conjuration damage bonus increased from 3 to 5%. Pretty good. Amount of intelligence required to gain 1% bonus. Burning damage reduced from 75 to 25. Okay. So that's pretty good. So these are just, I mean, pretty solid buffs. Item updates, Meteorite damage has been changed to 20 to 30% of the casted meteor's damage. Ooh, yep, that meteor build's coming, because this used to be a flat damage. Aspect of Shattered Stars, what it would do is it would cause little small meteors to go around your meteor, but it would do a flat amount of damage. But now it scales off of your casted meteor's damage. That is, ooh, oh, Meteor's coming. Meteor is coming to D4, let's go. Alright, Staff of Lamb Essen, increased charge bolt chance to be attracted to enemies from 30 to 50% to 40 to 60. Ice Heart Brace, or I don't know how you pronounce that. Chance to unleash a Frost Nova when enemies die, increased from 11 to 20% to 21 to 30%. Okay, so that's it for the changes. I think the main things are, I think Stormclaw is going to be really good for the Druid. I think it just got straight gas. Hell, even Companion Druid got buffed a little bit, so I'm pretty happy with the builds I like to play. Pretty good for me. Looks like Ball Lightning got wrecked. Sorcerer is going to have a really fun Meteor build whenever you actually get to the point where you can get that unique. So once you get that unique, Meteor will be online. So I think Meteor might end up being a top tier build, because like just looking at that, there's no way it doesn't end up becoming like a top tier build. Like it's just insane. Anyway, so in-game activities. So Helltides are now going to be active every hour on the hour with a 5-minute gap in between. Helltide will be active 55 minutes of every hour, so players can more consistently acquire Distilled Fear. We've reworked how Distilled Fear is collected in the Nightmare Dungeons. Players will always gain one after completing a Nightmare Dungeon at least tier 30, and every 10 tiers after tier 30 there's an increased chance for an additional one. Okay, so it makes it easier to get the Beast in the Ice, and then there's a 5-minute gap between Helltides instead of an hour gap. So pretty sweet. Helltides all the time, which is awesome, because it was kind of annoying that you couldn't just go and farm. You could infinitely farm one side of the mats for Duriel, but you couldn't on the other. So anyway, Scrolls of Escape will now populate in lost item stashes. The player missed one that was dropped. Stack limit increased from 20 to 99. Okay. Chance for Scatter and Prisms to drop when defeating an elite monster has been reduced. Scatter and Prisms can now be acquired from Legion event chests. Material Cap, Treasure Goblins spawned while fighting Avarice now have the same loot potential as normally encountered trouble. Okay. World Tier 4 weekly caches can now drop unique items. So apparently they could not. I didn't even know that. The increased cap for item power on drops from world bosses has been adjusted. Previous plus 100 to min, plus 100 to max. New plus 65 to minimum, plus 25 to the max. Okay. Interesting. The increased cap for item power on drops from world bosses. Huh. Oh. Okay. So wait, so like if you get it from a world boss, are they saying you can get a plus, like that means you could get like, for instead of a 925, you could get like a 950 version of something? Huh. Okay. The item power for items dropped by in-game bosses such as Varshan and Zir have been decreased for rare and legendary items. Unique item power has not been changed. Examples note that their current range. So, okay. So Varshan unique 65 to 750 is now 650 to 725. Grigor in World Tier 4, rare legendary range 875, 800 to 875, unique item power range 850 to 925. Okay, so so it looks like you're not just gonna want to spam Grigor anymore to get like high item level gear. Same thing with Okay, but Varshan's unchanged though. Varshan is unchanged on World Tier 4. It's just Grigor that they changed. Beast in the Ice, 900, 925, 850 to 925. Okay. Wait. Duriel remains unchanged, always drops 925. Wait, hold on. Okay. So it looks like on World Tier 4, Varshan was left untouched though. So Duriel remains the always 925, so that's cool. And it looks like Beast in the Ice, since it's like the highest level one, is going to drop higher level gear, so it's going to be Beast in the Ice farming now? It looks like? Okay, that's cool. Nightmare Dungeon item power scaling has been adjusted to more consistently drop high item power loot in high-tiered Nightmare Dungeons. So monsters at level 100, previous 820 to 925, new 845 to 925. Rare item power range 785 to 925, new 810 to 925. Okay, monsters at level 125, 845 to 925, 910 to 925. Rare item 810. Okay, so all monsters above level 100, so 90 plus, are now guaranteed to drop 925 item power gear. So actually, doing Nightmare Dungeons is just, high Nightmare Dungeons is strictly going to be the best way to gear up, I think now. Because if you're just guaranteed to get 925 items, like, unless you're specifically looking for a unique item, yeah, cool, alright. Potion count will no longer be reset after dying and being revived by another player. Hatred's chosen. Siphon effect is no longer based on lucky hit. Okay, user interface, yada yada. Bug fixes. Let's see if there's any bug fixes here that's relevant. Fixing spawn excessive number of minions could still attack a player after being defeated during the second phase. Fix an issue or effects. Okay. Oh, fixed an issue where Bonebreaker Legendary didn't have buff indicator. Fix an issue or guaranteed cannot trigger on basic attacks. Fix an issue where charged. Then intended to do. Okay. Let's see. Alright, so we have fix an issue where the Envenom displayed its damage bonus as additive when it was multiplicative. Oh. So Envenom is actually, wait, fix and display it as when it was multiplicative. So is it still additive? What? It says it displayed its damage bonus as additive when it was multiplicative. Okay, so I guess Envenom is a multiplicative buff again? Okay. Fixed an issue where Enhanced Ravens wasn't increasing critical strike chance to enemies hit. Fixed an issue where Dire Wolf's aspect did not specify that it also made Grizzly Rage function as a werewolf skill. Okay. Fixed an issue could get removed. Gore Quills. Fixed an issue could not cast Blizzard. Alright. I don't know if any of these are, I don't know, I haven't experienced any of these, but maybe you guys have experienced some of these. Sorcerer, fixed an issue. Ball Lightning was dealing an unintended amount of damage because of its enhanced upgrades. The bug fix returns the amount of damage done by this skill to intended quantities. So fixed an issue where Ball Lightning was dealing far more damage than intended. So this is interesting because that means that the whole entire Season 3 best build was because of a bug. It was because of a bug. So that's going to be interesting to see how big of a drop that actually ends up being, I guess. Okay. Alright. Well, yeah, well, that's everything. So this has been a first look at the patch notes. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you next time. Thanks.